Mr. Scrubbutennis.
Here.
Mr. Khan.
Here.
Ms. Shenfield.
Here.
Mr. Darpino.
Here.
Mr. Oster.
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. Okay, we have the minutes, the approval of the minutes from the February 10th, 2020 meeting, and those were the minutes that were emailed and posted up on the web, and we have a copy also here. So it's the one that's stamped as draft, to make sure you have the right one. There's some minor changes between the initial ones and the draft one version that you have. I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 10th meeting.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Scrubbutennis and seconded by Mr. Oster. Any comments, changes to the minutes at all? I got a couple on nits if nobody has anything. Anything? No? All right, just a couple of minor things. On page 3, line 97, just it says Mr. Lozman, just to be in keeping with the rest of the text, Dr. Lozman. Let's change that to Doctor. I just said they're just minor. And then on page 9, line 321. At the end of the line, there says Chairman Walsh stated they, not, I mean, just a typo, THEY. And that's all I had was those two minor comments. Anybody else have anything at all? No? Okay, so seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as slightly amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the minutes from the February 10th meeting are approved. Move on the agenda. We have no public hearings tonight. So next up is privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters of town of Niskayuna, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. I'm glad to listen to what you have to say.
Lorene Zabin, 2455 Brookshire Drive. I was just talking to the planner and she suggested that I let the board know what my concerns are. My concerns are two things. One is the denuding of subdivision lots for homes. And when I say that is that I believe we've had an ordinance on the books since our esteemed attorney has been here as long as I have. Maybe I'm here a little bit longer than you, I'm not sure. But anyway, we couldn't clear lot for a house. We could only do the foundation of the house and the garage. Okay, the rest of it, I think there was a procedure as to how to take care of that. Now, the lots that I'm referring to are the ones on Whitney and Pierce Road. Now, those houses were built, they look very nice. There was an old house there that had a history. And the house was, the lots, it was an acre lot full of trees. Well, then when it was purchased, and I'm sorry I'm bothering you, whatever, over there, but the fact remains that we are a tree community, and it was done by Richard Holt, who was a councilman back in the 80s. And we have loved our trees, and we don't like to see lots completely denuded. Now, the reason I bring that up is because we are now facing apparently a subdivision on Valencia Drive that has been reduced inside, and I'm happy about that. But I'm not happy about the fact that the history of the particular builder has been to take trees down. And I do feel that we should take a particular interest in whoever does inspections or approvals, tell these contractors that they cannot take down all the trees, especially in that area where they have such I would say, a flooding problem. So that was one of the reasons why I just couldn't wait any longer to talk about that, because nothing seems to get done. It just seems to get worse. Now, the other thing is the sign ordinance. I don't know whether anybody reads the sign ordinance, but we have a wonderful sign ordinance. It tells you that you need permission. For instance, we have our political signs that are accepted. We put them all, we hang them from trees. We do all sorts of things with them. But the signs that come up are signs that are not necessarily related to the town. And they're all in prominent places. So they're not on your street, and they're not on my street, but they're on the main streets into our fair town. And one in particular, there's probably a dozen of them, but I can't write and drive at the same time. But there's an exit, the exit ramp from the Mohawk Club has a sign that is so, it's just crippled. It's just, I don't know whether people have knocked into it or what. But that sign has been there since I would say the fall. Now, it isn't that we all don't go by Troy Road and turn onto Balltown Road. It isn't that we just don't see them. We don't pay any attention to them. And I would think people on the planning board would be very concerned about how the town looks, because that's what makes our town. And people have been concerned, and that's why we have a zoning ordinance. We you know, when we had an incident back during the election and our code enforcement officer decided not to do anything about it, I was taken back because we have a law. You take down signs that are not appropriate, that are not, there was no designation on it. There was nothing on it that made us think that that was an authorized sign. Now, I bring that to your attention because we're getting the Kelts Farm property coming up. And even though there are not a lot of trees down there, I'm sure, you know, we do want to be sure that that's going to be a visible, how should I say, pleasant thing to have and very nice for River Road. One thing I will tell you is the days of Farmer Kelts has long passed. Do you know that that man had a flower? He had flowers and sold them to the nurseries. And if you wanted to stop and buy a bouquet of his flowers, you put your money in a glass jar. Remember that? Now, would you dare put flowers in a bowl and a little jar of money to make your change? Today, you see how far we've evolved. And when I think about what Niskayuna was and how we loved being here and we all participated, and when I see sort of a disregard now, not for what we want, but for what our laws say, our ordinances say. And I really wish when you're reviewing some of these bigger projects that are changing and visibly changing the complex of the town of Niskayuna, I would hope that some of these little minor things would be important to you. It's important to a lot of us that have lived here. And, you know, and the planner says, call me. I said, I do. I call and it goes in this there and out there. Not that I always speak with Laura, but the fact is when you call and you say, what about such and such? Would you check that out? Now, if we're so busy and we are so totally ignoring what this town is about because we have other fish to fry, as the expression goes, then maybe we need more help. Every board meeting, we're hiring or getting new people for the water department or this or that. But the water department doesn't know the ordinances. The planning board does, the zoning board does, the department head do. And please make my last another 20 to 50 years, a little happier. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is open. Anyone else? Ms. King?
Gail King, 1633 Balltown Road. I work at 2215 Knott Street. Just a few things that I observed, and some of the things were brought up at the last meeting, which I was with you all the way. I watched it in my pajamas. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I have heard this board and the town board discuss eliminating this privilege of speaking from the floor. I know you have given permission for the secretary to round off my thoughts that I will say here tonight. I am speaking my thoughts from my computer to print. You can do that. Your computer will write down what you say. It's not that hard. This process can be revised to prepare and replace other let me get this. This process can be reserved to prevent or replace overworked secretaries. You and I have spent many hours listening to the Holocaust Memorial presentations, including a request that the Holocaust reminder be made prettier, easier, not as it truly happened. My husband was stationed in Bremerhaven, Germany in 1959 through 1961. I can tell you the devastation was still there and not pretty. It's something we should not forget. I'm telling you this because people who live and work here have rights and lives that are still important. Their thoughts are important. This is the only place we have to tell you what we are thinking as you make rules and laws that affect all of us. You tell us that what we can and can't do with property we pay outlandish prices and taxes on. But you say you have no control over a piece of Knott Street, approximately 500 feet by 80 feet, between Balltown Road and Clifton Park Road. A proposed grant of $1,500,000. The stoplight upgrade at Balltown Road has been canceled. Our town planner says it's for safety. People will walk on the 500 feet of sidewalk to most of the roads in Old Niskayuna that have no sidewalks. Most of the parking this planning committee or board requires for businesses in Niskayuna will be paved over, only entering from Balltown Road. The eventual result will be empty buildings because this board's number one question is how much parking do you have? Also, will this board, the county, and the state of New York allow a crosswalk 80 feet long on Knott Street, back up traffic on Balltown and Knott Street, east and west? It makes sense to make a 2-lane road around the shopping plaza, move the stoplight south a bit. The New York board engineer who I talked to says it has to be a 40-mile-per-hour road. That sounds like heavy-duty trucks. With the present plan, this would put the trucks in the middle of an 80-foot crosswalk. I ask you to consider this and be aware and try to help us protect the 130 jobs that are in this plaza, the business buildings that have been there since the 1930s. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open. Anyone else wish to be heard?
I'm Robert King, 1633 Balltown. I'm Gail's husband. On a lighter note and something to do with parking, my wife and I returned from a trip out of town this past weekend, and I went down, check on my store, and I found that all the co-op was clean. The parking was all clean. All down around the pharmacy, the the liquor store, etc. Were all clean. No snow. Guess where it was? If you haven't driven down Knott Street, you might find it. It's in front of my store, taking up 3 parking places. Yes, it's my problem, but every time I come back from being out of town, something happens. The plowing is controlled by the pharmacy store, so I will take care of it. But I just thought I'd let you know. Thank you very kindly.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Privilege of the floor? Last chance. Okay, seeing no one else, I'll close privilege of the floor. Thank you for your comments. And we'll move on to unfinished business. Unfinished business, we have resolution 2020-09, a resolution for site plan amendment for Body Works Professionals at 1343 Balltown Road. This is unfinished business, so it's a work in progress. It was tabled at last meeting, so we've already had a motion and a second. So we'll kind of pick up, I guess, where we're at.
Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening. I guess I turn it over to you, Dave. How's that?
Okay. Since the last meeting, we've met a couple times with Nick, the owner, and Emma from AJ Sign, and went through a couple different versions of the hanging sign, and specifically where it's going to be located along Balltown Road. We did locate it on the site, so we were able to clarify it is definitely set back within that 10 feet. That's over. It's on the 10 feet back from the right of way. It doesn't seem like it's going to be in any area where the snow plows would hit it. It's pretty visible on Balltown Road, so I think the location is good. We looked at the sign that was going to go on the building. Again, I think that that's an appropriate signage for the size that they've selected. We also reviewed their parking layout, specifically looking at the 2 spaces on the side of the building and how that will minimally affect any of the. They have enough room for 2 spaces, basically. I think you can squeeze in 2 narrower spaces there without having to do even some additional paving. And then it won't disrupt some nice landscaping that's already currently there near the side street. And then the last thing we looked at was the ramp outside. And I actually turned that back over to Nick to talk with the building department. Came up with an option, I think, that could keep them from having to extend the front of the building out further and still meet the handicap accessibility. So I know that that's in their court to work with the building department on. I believe it might be just as easy as reversing the door swing because there's a clearance that has to happen on the front of the building. If the door swing was to swing the way that it does now, they would have to bump out the front of the building,
Around the door when it's open.
come around it, and we might have a better solution that would be a little bit less intrusive and would allow them to keep the front of the building looking exactly the way it is.
Right?
Do I need to get approval if we do change the door? We talk to the builder, and is there any design considerations I have to have?
Not from the planning board for which way the door goes.
No. I mean,
But
as far
building
as
code,
the aesthetics of it, like what it looks like. Like, in other words, if I choose a different door than the one that's there, do I have to run it by building or planning or anything?
Replacing a door and not changing the size of it is, you can just do that.
Okay.
If you're changing the way it swings, I would just double check with Tom because of just the code for people exiting the building.
Got it.
Yeah, it might need different hardware because it always has to open out for emergencies or whatever.
It would still swing out. It would just swing the opposite.
Yeah,
Right.
right, yeah.
So,
Yeah, that sounds good.
okay.
Sounds like a worthwhile visit. And for clarification, so where we're at on signs for the facade sign, it's 45 by 35, right, in this middle?
That the final size? That's the one?
That's for the facade, right?
Yep.
And I guess where we're at tonight is just discussion basically on the freestanding, I guess, sign. I know the proposal and the resolution current form is for the 40 by 30, but I want to leave that up to you guys since you had the site visit of where we're at and how it compares to the other signs that are on the street.
So we went and I measured the KinderCare sign, the law office sign that's there, and also the olive oil company sign. So the olive oil company sign is a 30-inch circular diameter. The law office is 30 inches at the scroll, but the actual width of the square portion is about 20 inches by 19 inches high. And KinderCare is 48 inches wide by, was it 36,
Yep.
being the largest of those. So we looked at a 40-inch wide hanging sign with a scroll and a post, and then also I requested a 36-inch sign. So my thoughts is that at one point we had started with a 30-inch hanging sign. I felt after review in the field, that's a little too small for a couple reasons. One, if you're driving, you can't read the script that's on the sign. It is just small enough that it would be difficult to see. They don't have a logo that would be identifiable. If you look at the olive oil company sign, it's bright green with a logo. You might not even know what it says, but you would get familiar with that if you were using that business all the time. Theirs is, has a script that's being used continuously through their marketing and what's going to be on their building and inside. So with that being said, I like the post, I like the scroll on it. I felt pretty strongly that a 36-inch sign would be the largest I'd like to see in that area, but I'd like to open it up to some discussion, not only with the client, but also with the board.
Right, so that would be the one that's on the first attachment, so it'd be 36 by 27. And we changed several times at the last meeting.
Right.
So I think it's, where we're at is really 36 by 27 or the 40 by 30. I think that's the decision to be made tonight so we can get this,
Right.
get this moving, be done with it, right?
Right.
Like to
We'd
come
like
see
to
us,
get
I'll know a
it
lot.
planned,
Yeah.
I like you guys. I'll be here next week anyway.
So that's really the bottom line. And I'm my opinion, was it's bigger than where we started, either of those two sizes. And I, leave it up to Dave's recommendation, but I'm just one vote. So whatever you guys think. Any thoughts at all?
So this picture, what's the approximate dimensions of that?
The picture that we're holding up is this attachment. It's 40 by 30.
That's 40.
Making, yep.
Yeah, it
That's
doesn't
a
look-
40 by 30, right?
40 by 30, yep.
Sign held is 40. There it is in the corner. Okay.
Does the 36 cause you any heartache?
Well, I figure the 36 is only 10% smaller than the 40, and the 40 is 10 feet back. So we've got a nice setback. So I figured I could live with the 36, to be perfectly honest. I think the 40 would be nice. It would be a little bit bigger, but I could live with the 36.
I'm okay approving a 36.
Me too.
Okay.
The only reason that we would suggest the 40 is just visibility. Like we mentioned before, we took overall aesthetic of the sign, the appearance, examined the neighborhood, wanted it to blend in. It's neutral color. So, like I said before, it's not orange, so it's not sticking straight out. So the enlarged size is really what would be a little bit more captivating and easy for people to see. As you'll see in one of the one with the white box and the red text, there's an attachment. Pulling out of that parking lot, you have no obstructions. The sign is not in anyone's way, coming or leaving. So that was a plus. I kind of tested that out as my own, on my own, the park car. And then there's the other picture of Nick and I holding it up. So that's not at such a distance, but it's far enough away where you can kind of get a good idea of the size compared to the elements around it. It almost looks like the do not block side of road is somewhat bigger if you keep going back. So as much as we would appreciate the consideration of the 40-inch, like Nick said, we also would be okay with the 36 as well.
Do you think those extra 2 inches would make a real big difference for the kind of vibe of the community? I mean, we're looking at a 40-inch sign isn't that much bigger, and for us, it's all the difference in the world. I think for Balltown Road, it isn't that big a difference. This is a road where people drive by pretty quickly. As David mentioned, a 30-inch sign is almost too small to even see. So 40 inches gives it a little bit more. I think the character and the neighborhood are a really important component to this. And we want to make sure that Bodyworks is sort of a neighborhoody business. I mean, that's something for us that's like really important, is we want to I'd like to get new lamp posts and make things look cool. You know, I'm going to do some cool like plants and make everything look really sharp. And that extra couple of inches for us, again, is a really big deal. You know, we have very little, we're not going to do a ton of flashy marketing. We're not going to do really any flashy marketing except have a really well-made, nicely crafted sign. And I just felt like 40 inches was a reasonable ask.
Yeah, the 40 by 30 is square footage is, it's in the resolution or in the,
So let's talk about.
it's only 8.3 square feet.
We could talk about the excess
Yeah.
over what's allowed, right?
Yeah, what's allowed is nothing, right? So
Yeah. And so we
Yeah.
like to minimize
just a facade sign, yeah.
that excess. In all honesty, guys, the KinderCare sign is actually too big.
So,
It sticks out. Like,
yeah. And one of the things too is that even though I think the size of this, even if it was 40 inches or 48 inches, the size of it is it's a little bit more pleasing because it is eased. But the way our code reads is that they take the overall extents, and if 40 inches becomes the standard here or sets a precedent,
Yeah.
if the next sign is rectangular and not as eased and done as tastefully, then next person might want 42 and 46 and 48, and just it could snowball from there. So.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing from last time now in the analysis is getting the actual dimensions of the existing signs that can be compared to, right? And we're definitely, I don't think it would make logical sense to go for the maximum that's there, which is KinderCare. So definitely the 30 is small. I agree to that.
So,
Right.
so that would be the first attachment to 36 by 27, which I think we were at.
Right.
Last week, that was suggested be larger than the original one, which I think was 28. I can't keep up with it.
That would be comparable to the law sign, which
Right.
I agree with Emma and Nick. If
Yeah,
you're walking down the street, you can see it. If you're driving, you do have to slow down. It is hard to read.
And that is a home office, and we'll have, of course,
All
a
right.
whole
Yeah.
All
building
right, so it's a 36 by 27. It's on the drawing dated 2/17/2020 and received in planning office on February 21st. So
Yeah.
David,
To clarify the resolution, because actually we just referenced the drawings and they're both the same. They
Yep,
both have the
but it was
same.
clear because of the size was on the. in the
So, yeah,
resolution.
so what I think we should, the size actually isn't mentioned in the resolution. I think we should modify it to say, whereas Bodywork Professional has made an application to the planning board for a site plan amendment to resolution 2019-29. That includes one 45-inch by 35-inch facade sign and one 36-inch by 26-inch monument sign. And that way it's very clear.
Yep.
Oh, and also, it should actually read 1343 Balltown Road and the two lines down. So if we could add that. Sorry about that, guys. And then, so then we would probably do that exact same thing in the further resolved.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Just so that it's very clear, especially because this is, you know, like we talk about with precedents. And then my only other thing, which I was just sitting here and thinking about, if you guys don't mind, is in the further resolved clause, I would also ask that, because we talked about the parking and the ramp, but it's not actually referenced anywhere in the resolution, that we could write that the planning board and zoning commission finds that the site plan referenced above, comma, including the parking and ramp updates, meet the requirements of the zoning code and hereby approve the site plan amendment. Would that be
I
okay for
agree.
clarification? So that, I mean, because they're in the packet, but if you're just reading the resolution, that way somebody who's just doing the bare minimum research would be like, oh yeah, okay, they did change some of the parking
All
stuff.
right, so let's do it this way. So Dave, we have a motion to modify the resolution as previously, as stated by the town planner.
I so moved.
Okay, do I have a second on that? So it's been moved for amendment by Mr. DiRapino and seconded by Mr. Khan. And the changes include the correction of the date or the address, 1343, referencing the actual dimensions of the signs, which are in the first attachment. So 45 by 35 for the facade, 36 by 27 for the freestanding sign. Then the clarification that the site plan has the parking and ramp update included. All right, so bring everything up to date.
And correct, 13, so there's 1243 is in two different
Two
spots.
locations.
Yeah, and the further resolved,
Yeah.
we
The
corrected
front
to
and the-
1343.
1343, okay. All right, so we have a motion for the amendment. We can vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, none opposed. So we have an amended resolution that has the signage at 36 by 27, is where we're at. Okay, any other discussion at all? No?
We're meeting more than halfway in the middle, right?
Yeah,
Right?
we know where you're at,
From
but
28 to 40, we're meeting more than halfway.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll work.
it'll be fine.
I think it'll look nice.
Yeah. And it helps us out too, because, you know, again, they're not allowed, so we got to be careful here, right? So this is a win-win, I think, right? All right, any other comments? All right, please call the roll, clerk. On the amended resolution.
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Mr. Scrivby Tennis?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Ms. Shenfield?
Aye.
Mr. Darpino?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. The resolution is approved, so I think we're all set. I appreciate you guys coming in there and everything. I know it
Thank you.
seems harder than it needs to be sometimes, but it's important, so thank you.
No,
I
we
know you'll do a
appreciate
lot of body works to the Body
Yeah.
Works building.
Place will look good. I'm sure it'll look good. It'll be a good improvement, and obviously we want it to be successful too. So.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I got a tour of the building on Friday with Nick. They've done nice work with it. So I think, you know, especially this spring, it's going to look really good.
It's gonna look cool. We'll have a big opening party. Everybody's invited.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. All right, so we're all set on unfinished business. On new business, we have a recommendation tonight for the ZBA for use variance for 2764 Troy Road for the Niskayuna Animal Hospital. And we have the applicant, representatives of the applicant here. And I think, so for tonight, I guess, the only thing we got to talk about is really, if there's any changes. I mean, I think we are all up to date with the changes, the size of the building and the percentages that were included in the packet. So it's really, I guess, Mr. Oster,
And there's been no change, to confirm, there's been no change to the plan since the last time, correct?
It's still a proposed building addition of 890 square
Right.
feet. It's just that they did change the way that we calculated the total square footage on the property, just
Okay.
because the shed was misreported, right, Clark? And also they added in the second story.
yeah, so the one, the dimension went down to get it to, was it 16% is where it ended up being?
Yeah, so the percentages changed a little just based on them updating their site plan. But the proposed building addition is still 890.
It's about 1% overall on the site and just about 15%, a little over 15%
Yeah.
of building area increase.
Okay. The one thing, Laura, I just had a question for you. You know, we have the memorandum to make our recommendation tonight, but there's also the denial letter, the original denial letter. Does that need to be updated before it goes to the ZBA this week?
Should, yeah. I think we'll try and update it for Wednesday.
Yeah, because the numbers obviously are
Yeah.
different than what we're acting on
So
tonight.
we do like the denial letters to match the final, so we
Yep.
will do that.
Okay, just want to bring it to your attention, thank you. And it'll be nice and clean then. Mr. Oster, you have any comments, or you want to open up and just go right to the questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 3 questions that we need to answer for our recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The first being the effect on the comprehensive plan. Mr. Oster?
It does have an effect on the comprehensive plan. On page 113 of the comprehensive plan, it talks about under implementation tasks, the town should take action to sustain the essentially residential character of the Troy-Schenectady Road corridor, so it is not consistent with a comprehensive plan.
Okay, it's not, the recommendation is not consistent, or there is an effect, because the question is effect on the comprehensive plan, so there is an effect on the comprehensive plans, I guess would be the way to word it. As Mr. Oster noted, it was page, was it 113?
113.
113. I'd also like to add at pages 88 to 90, also discussed the Troy Road and summarize land uses. And the town should maintain existing zoning along Route 7 and concerned about increase in commercial properties there also. So I'd like to reference that, pages 88 to 90. So the recommendation is that there is an effect on a comprehensive plan. All those that feel there is an effect or agree that there is an effect on comprehensive plans, please do a show of hands. So it's unanimous that there is an effect on the comprehensive plan. Next question, suitability for use in the area proposed. Mr. Oster?
Yeah, I mean, this is, certainly this is something we've debated at, we've gone through discussions. We are been concerned about precedent setting for other businesses that may potentially be looking to either locate or redesign along the Troy-Schenectady Road corridor. I will say at the same time, however, that there have been some changes. There have been some changes to make it a little more fit within sort of the general view along Troy-Schenectady Road. We're connecting two buildings. It's going to be a little less obvious. I think the I think the Conservation Advisory Council set forth a number of criteria that they would look at. And again, that's not necessarily, definitive, but I do think it sort of sets forth the roadmap. This would come back, if ultimately this got approved, this would come back on a site plan.
Yep.
I think it would set forth a roadmap for how this would, would be looked at. In terms of the impact upon other potential properties, I mean, I do think there are other areas that may have more intense uses that would potentially still be problematic, though I would not say in a just on a precedential value that necessarily rule that out either. There has been some attempt to actually make this fit within the flow of the Troy Schenectady Road corridor. And as a result of that, I would say that it is suitable.
Okay. The recommendation is it is suitable. I might want to also add that, you might have said it's just a difference of words here, but it's a minimum change of intensity, I guess is another way to look at it. And one of the most important things is there's the visual change is minimal. You're not going to see anything from Troy Road. So it's going to basically look the way it does right now because of where that building is placed. It's just connecting the two buildings. So visual impact is little to none. I'd also like that. So the recommendation is as suitable for the area proposed, suitability of use. All those that agree, we can just do a show of hands. It's suitable.
I'm not raising my hand.
You're not raising your hand. So we have 6 and 1 that's saying it's not suitable.
Do you want to put on the record just a counterpoint or just let it be?
I mean, I'm going strictly by the percentages.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my argument.
Okay. And the percentage that's allowed is 10%, and we're
Right.
looking at a 16% increase here. Okay. All right. And the final is the recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Mr. Oster?
Yes, based upon the fact of the discussion we had about the suitability, I would recommend that the planning board recommend that the ZBA grant the waiver.
Okay. The recommendation is that the use variance be granted. I'll add a couple things, just that there seems to be a benefit also, viability of the business, by connecting the things, and you're not seeing it from the road. It seems like it would benefit the people that utilize and the business there with minimal impact to the neighborhood. It may reduce outside activity because you're taking the dogs or the pets from one location to another, which could influence the well-being of the dogs and possibly impact the neighborhood because they're moving outside. So by having the buildings connected, it would reduce that outside activity, and the site changes are minimal. You went from the original proposal, which was, I can't remember, 1,400, whatever it was, down to 890, which I think is more reasonable. So it kind of got me, because I was a little bit, I was where Mr. Khan was with the original proposal was pretty substantial, I thought. So I think this is more reasonable. So all those in favor of the recommendation from Mr. Oster is that ZBA grant the use variance. All those will do a show of hands again. And again, it'll be, so it's a 5-2 that they grant the use variance. And if any comments, Dave or Mr. Khan, that you want to have documented?
Same thing. For me, same comment like that. So I'm going strictly by the percentage of what's allowed and what's there, and understand, you'll make your case to the ZBA and they'll have our recommendations, but that's at least where the perspective I'm voting from.
I feel the same way. Also, I think that there could have been a little bit more due diligence to see if you could stay within the 10% footprint. And I know that this is still diagrammatic, but I don't know if you've gotten through an entire comprehensive floor plan evaluation of all the buildings with the addition. Again, I agree with Mr. Khan. You'll go in front of the zoning board. But again, this is a pretty important corridor in town, and that's why it's been cited several places in the comp plan. And I feel it'll set a precedent for other businesses along the corridor. May use it as an example.
Excuse me. First of all, I appreciate all your time, and the way that you conduct your business is very professional, and you all seem like nice people, and I appreciate that. As far as the precedent, personally, I know that the gas station was turned down recently, but I would not say that there's that much of a equivalence to a veterinary hospital that's been around for 84 years that is not asking for an increase in overall size for the purposes of increasing business or traffic or anything. It's for the comfort in lessening the anxiety of the animals and their owners. But it's also the succession planning that I think that I mentioned to you as far as it's dinosaur, as far as how current day veterinary hospitals are built. And it just doesn't lend itself to best practices. So I appreciate your consideration. The precedent thing, I would respectfully think that there is not as much of a precedent, but you know this business better than I do, so I defer to you.
No, appreciate it. And the other thing, I know, Laura, you were going to mention, I think we received, planning office received letters supporting the, I guess would be the use variance, you know, our positive recommendation. I can't remember what the total was. You're up to like
Yeah.
30 or so.
So 17 were included in your packet today, and we received an additional 15 during the day. I was unable to forward those on. I was traveling today, but I will respond to all those people and we'll have them combined for the ZBA. But so essentially, what's 17 plus 15?
And then-
32. 32.
Just a question.
32
Yeah.
letters of
On the
support.
17, on the remaining 15 that we did not get, were there any other neighbors? Because on the 17, there was only one neighbor.
There were. I was just going through my computer more quickly, and they did seem to be more locally based. Although, I mean, not all of them.
But including the area behind the property?
No, there was just more Niskiuna people that I noticed.
No, I meant specifically Troy Road.
Troy Road or that road
We had
behind.
number 17 on the first list of 17. So that was the only person who lived. He said he was across the street.
I was looking at the addresses quickly, but I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I was looking
seeing
at the
them.
streets. So,
Yeah.
all right, we'll
right.
find it. It's it's a moot point now, but that's okay.
For what it's worth, I did speak to, by phone, to 3 of our back neighbors who are closer to the action as far as potential noise, et cetera, than across a state highway. And the 3 that I spoke to who are directly behind us were pretty good about it and did not express to me any problem or any major concern.
Yeah, the ZBA is going to have a public hearing, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
so all those people got a notice in the mail, and you guys have potentially not experienced this because it's a ZBA thing, but because you are not able to call for a public hearing because the application is denied, the ZBA essentially gets the first public hearing, and so sometimes because that notification has gone out and people are hearing for it the first time at the ZBA, planning board concerns get brought to the ZBA, but they're usually pretty good at shifting through that. And if it's something that they can, deflect back to the planning board, they will. And if it has bearing on the use variance, then they take that in and consider it. But the first true public hearing is on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
And
I
the
believe
the
you're
mailings
last on
went out
the
on
agenda.
Friday.
There's,
Last
I
Friday.
think, several items on Wednesday's agenda. Okay, any other questions for the applicant, or do you guys have anything right now?
Not that once we get through the ZBA, we would come back in front of you again for site plan approval at that point.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Wednesday.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we got next a discussion item, pick up where we picked off or left off last time on 2538 River Road, special use permit, major subdivision, Kells Farm. And project leads are Mr. DiRapino, Mr. McPartland can't be with us tonight. We have the applicant here, and maybe you just want to discuss, figure out what the changes since the last meeting, and we'll open it up for discussion. How's that? Yes, please use the microphone. Make sure we get you on the.
Hi, I'm Tony Mantello from Advanced Engineering. And the first sketch you're looking at here is for the Kells Farm subdivision, 16.4 acres off of River Road. And what we've done here per your request is show a conventional subdivision layout with approximately 28 building lots shown. This is a requirement, it's my understanding, before you can proceed in with the conservation subdivision, that we can establish the number.
Just 1 second. You need to move that so you can get it on the, yeah. So we all have copies, so we
Okay.
can see it, and she's just going to relocate it so we can get it on the recording video. Yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay, so the question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This was the conventional lot layout.
Right.
And
so one of the things we've got, I guess I don't want to steal Dave. The bottom line is we have to come to agreement on what we think the number of lots would have been, so we know where we can go with the average density development, right?
Correct.
And so what are we saying we got here now?
28.
28, showing all the conventional lot requirements.
Well, it doesn't include the 25-foot wetland buffer though, and so I think the applicant noted that when you add the 25-foot wetland buffer, I mean, you really don't have 28 lots at that point.
24? Yeah, according to the code, you need to include, any like restrictions that would prevent development if it was an R1,
Right.
Right. Not, and, yeah, so when I looked at it, it was 28 shown.
So like, for
To me,
instance,
4 of them looked like there were issues with lots.
9,
8.
8, 9,
Yeah.
27, 28.
14.
Yeah, exactly, where I was at. I don't know, Dave, if you had a chance to look at that or not. So that left me at more like 24 lots, and I don't know if that's where you really.
That was our target.
That's our target.
And that's what target was anyway. Yeah. And they would, so it would be the equal a number of lots in the average density development, you'd be able to go down to half the size, to 9,000 square feet. And then there's the 40% of R1 or 40% single family homes, right?
That's right.
Okay. Dave, you okay with that, 24?
Yeah, I think the reconfiguration is good. You've eliminated the potential for any flag lots. There's a couple difficult lot lines just based on the way it's carved up, but nothing I don't think jumps out that's wouldn't be congruent with the comprehensive plan.
Right. So for the rest of the board, so I think, it's pretty important. I think it sounds like the applicant believes they have 24. I think we got 24. Is everybody in agreement so we can, put that behind us?
Just one question.
Yep.
14 and 15, they have a wetlands designation on the map right in the core of the lot.
Yep.
Is there an issue there?
Well,
Yeah, so for constructability, I would say 8, 9, 28, and 14 aren't constructible, but you may be able to move the wetland a little bit on lot 15, and there's probably enough room on 27.
So just so we come to terms with the lots that are excluded, just so there's clarity, we're saying 8, 9, what else, Laura?
I would probably say
8, 9,
28 and 14. Those are the hardest ones. I mean, he's actually got 28 labeled as stormwater management.
Yeah.
You just have to put that in there anyway.
And 15, although.
I mean,
that's-
15 would be tight, but you might be able to push that corner back just with a nationwide permit or something like that. You're not doing any major wetland changes with that corner.
Okay. But the net result is, 24, and I think that's where you were at anyway, so that's, whether you pick 14 or 27, I guess, it still comes out
Definitely
24.
could probably fit something on. 15 is hard. I mean, debatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
single family.
Okay. So are we okay then with 24 lots? I mean, that's what you're basing your next phase average is on, the 24, right?
That's correct.
All right.
It's 24, not 23?
I say either 24 or 23. I think if you were going to implement this subdivision, 15 would be doable. You would probably have to do something with that wetland, but like you can change a small portion of a wetland, under a small permit versus like, what we ran into Rivers Ledge, where if you're impacting too much wetland, you get into major problems. It's really the board's comfort level. You have to find a number that you feel would be allowable under an R1 zoning, and that's the number that you run with for the average density development.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm okay with 24, but again, I'm just one.
What's the numbers? What's the average if it's 23? Do the math.
Well, 23 would be 40%, so would have to be a single family. So it just really wouldn't change it much, right? Well, it would change it because you'd have one less lot,
What's the ratio you're looking for?
It's a 40% minimum single family.
Yeah, so with the 24, it's, basically it's 9.6 or 10 homes, right? But I think that the 24 might make a difference to the applicant because, even though they can, avoid wetlands and move things around, that gives them, with the townhome, the 9,000.
In round numbers, it's 9 versus 10.
Yeah, so that's when I played around with it, I came up with 24. I thought that was reasonable, but I'm only one vote, so. mean, we need to make a, where we're headed with this is to make a recommendation. We're going to have a public hearing and make a recommendation to the town board because they have to issue a special use permit for average density development, and they'll also have a public hearing. So it'll be a work in progress as, we do some engineering too. Things could change,
Yeah, hang on, but 23 is fine too, right? Because it's minimum of 40%.
Right, but the way the average density development works is you have to agree on an R1 subdivision
Right.
for the number of units that are allowed in the average density development, and then you can apply the 40%. So it would probably keep the number of single-family homes the same, but it would potentially remove, I don't know, so what is 40% of 23? Does it actually become
so that gets
9?
to 9.2.
So,
Which is nine.
so you're maybe removing one single-family home from the potential average density development.
Right.
Yeah.
But he has an extra than single-family home, which is a good thing, right?
On the
Yeah.
on the average density development
Yeah.
plot. Yeah, I mean, you.
Right? Am I getting it right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he gets an extra home if we go to 24, basically.
Right. Yeah,
You know.
he gets an extra single.
Now,
I mean, it's-
one of the questions I had for, I don't know if it's for Mr. Briggs or Laura, but one of the questions I had is what power do we have? The code says 10%. The applicant is trying to show 10 homes, but in some cases, it may work out better for, if there was less single-family homes, just because, depending on whether we want the single-family homes along River Road, or if this Windsor thing comes to fruition where we make the connection, is it better to have the single-family homes contiguous or closer to the Windsor development? But the bottom line is, do we have to have, I guess my question is, do we have to have 10? Do we have to have 40%? Do we have any power to deviate from that?
I looked through the code on that, and Paul can jump in here too. I didn't see any ability for the planning board to waive any of the requirements for average density development, or that I don't know if the town has discretion when they're doing a special use permit. Sometimes they do, or it would have to be an area variance at the zoning board level for sure. You could do it that way,
Yeah.
because it would be changing the numbers of the average density development.
I agree.
I mean, just to clarify, the figure of merit here, the good thing is more single-family homes, right?
Well, yes, I
Yeah,
do
so-
think that there's a need in town for attached dwellings, and we don't
No,
have
no,
a
I mean,
lot of
based on
them.
the 40%.
Right. I mean, if we don't have any ability to waive the code, the difference between the 23 and the 24 is one single family home. Yeah.
Right, but I mean, having more single-family homes is better.
For this project?
No,
Mr.
no.
Why is it
For the
better?
code, for the code.
I guess I'm still not understanding the question.
Why are you making
So
that?
it's a matter of opinion,
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing I'm struggling with. I don't know what,
Yeah.
so I understand the calculation, but I don't know what the intent of the code is. Does it want to get less single-family homes than the average, or does it want to get more
Oh,
for this kind of a development?
so some towns call this kind of development a conservation subdivision.
Right,
So, I don't know that it actually is a legislative intent to have more or less single-family homes. I think that the whole point is a mixture, and whoever's drafting the code probably thought 40% was a good call. I think these days, with the number of single-family homes we have in our town and the limited zero lot lines that we have, we'd be better off with probably more twin townhomes. But between deciding whether or not the R1 property can support 23 or 24 units.
Yeah, because, one of the things I can add is the average density development, it's a minimum of 40%.
Yeah, that's
So
why.
you
it
could
would
do
be
an average
higher.
density development, it could be all single-family
Yeah, right,
homes.
right.
So he would just reduce the lot size to 9,000 square feet, and they could all be single-family homes, but that's not what the proposal is. But that could be one, I mean, like that was Catherine's Woods, that's what happened there. Those were our 80 lots, and they went
Yeah,
down to half the size.
I think
you know.
with minimum 40%, I think we're okay with
Yeah.
10 homes.
Well, yeah, I think we are
At
too.
23,
Yeah.
right?
At 24.
It's okay at 23 also, isn't it?
I thought you said it. I'm sorry.
So-
40% of 23 is
Because-
nine.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
23 was
But it's a
9.
minimum of 40%, so like if you did 45%, you'd be back at 10 on 23.
Yeah, yep. You could have 10 in either proposal.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's straight, right? The minimum
Yeah.
criteria.
It's 40%.
But I think and, you know, maybe the board can still have discussion. I think we were trying to maximize the zero lot lines because that's really a selling point in the town of Niskuna right now is diversity of housing and allowing less maintenance on properties.
But I think the key thing is that'll get us into an even number, odd number thing where we're at, right?
Yeah, if you went with the
If
23.
it's one house, you can't put
duplex.
you can't put a duplex for one, right? If it were two, then
Yeah.
Okay,
I guess I'm okay with this.
so we're okay with 24. I just want to make sure, so we can, all right.
I'm okay with 10 single-family homes.
Yeah.
I just want to note that there was discussion on whether that percentage should be 40% or possibly higher.
Higher.
Back when it was set.
Yeah, it was a minimum of 40%.
The
yeah.
intent was to make sure it kept the residential quality.
Yeah.
Right, and so therefore having more single-family homes would have been a better thing.
And I think now as then, there was really a bigger demand for detached single family.
Okay.
Design would know
Yeah.
better than I do.
And I think that's where the applicant's at, right? So they're at 24, and that's, with the latest submittals that we just received, I don't know if this was today or via email. So let's go to the next step. So we agree with 24, right? And now, shows you talk about the average density. So that's the R1 proposal, sketch
Right,
plan.
right. And we have some color renderings here, Joel, if you want.
Okay.
Okay, this first sketch shows the 10 single-family homes with the 14 townhouses. It shows the revised bike path connection crossing up to the Blatnick Park. And this option maintains the bike path and walkway over to Windsor.
So just one thing, that single-family home closer to the south side.
Yeah, lot
That
16,
one.
16,
Yeah,
lot
lot
16.
16. Well, what's driving that one? It just looks like it's a lot of places.
Yeah, last time
Is
we
it just
talked
that-
about swapping those with.
It's the wetlands.
It's the wetlands.
It's the wetlands.
Okay.
We did have the like inboard, so we had to switch.
Wetlands.
Along, and just maybe to clarify, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single families to the west, right?
Yes, on the
Yeah,
loop.
those-
Plus two more.
Yes, further upriver.
And
Road.
before there were some duplexes in there, but now there are 5 continuing.
Yes, that's to meet the minimum 40% requirement.
Right, just to get to that percentage, okay.
The wetlands wouldn't restrict you from, say, swapping the proposed single families on lot 7 and 6 and putting single families on 17 and 18 so that you have 3 single families coming off of River Road and then you would have a duplex on lot 7 and 6?
Yeah, we have that option, definitely.
Yeah.
So in other words, group all the single families all together, kind of bin them, so.
Yeah, I think grouping them is a wiser thing. So if you actually have the ability to keep them contiguous of the same kind, except where a transition gets made inside the development.
Yeah, so you could have 3 on the outer rings on both sides of the ring and then 1 on the inside and then the 2 on the side. That's
Yeah,
if you swap 7 and 6 with 17 and 18.
You mean 3 and 4? Oh, 7 and 6,
Seven.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Finally,
Yeah.
magnifying glass.
Yeah.
There we go, 7 and 6, there we go.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Pair those up and break apart, yeah.
So actually on River Road, it'll be all single families.
All
basically,
single families, yeah.
Right off of River Road.
These have to kind of stay because I have,
We're okay with those. It's just,
Yep.
just that,
Which
yeah.
continue, yeah.
Yeah,
I
the,
have 5 customers that have to face these, so that's why these are top.
right. If you, yeah, so if you move the 7 and the 6 over to 17 and 18, maybe you can have 2 more customers facing these 3. Or at least 1 more.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
17 and 18 has enough square footage, right?
Yeah, they all should.
Right, yeah.
And you're not really limited on the wetlands on 17.
Which ones did you say, Laura? Because I mean, we could put them up here to have easier facing too, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I was saying 7 and 6. If you move 7 and 6 to 17 and 18.
Yeah, if you make 7 and 6 a duplex,
Yeah, make 7 and 6 a duplex.
and then
Yeah.
So you have 3 single families.
Yeah, that gives me
just to the
6
park.
eastern facing, that's what
Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And which would that replace, Laura, just like Mark went up? And where would be the other 6? It'd be 17 and 18, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep, those would be the other 2 single families, and then you could put a duplex on 7 and,
And
I mean, a twin townhome.
Okay, all right, so I don't want, I don't want to jump in on you, Dave. I don't know if you had any specific comments or questions, but we should kind of talk about this one, the ingress egress off of River Road and the, I guess the extension of the hike bike, and how we feel about all this.
You want to flip to this one then?
Now, let's just keep on this one for a minute. One of the questions is the current sewer line, the easements there, if that were to be reverted back to you, that land, would that change anything? Or is it because it's all wet there, it wouldn't change anything for you? There's no advantage?
It could be used for possible wetland mitigation area.
Which we would like, because I think we want them to, we actually want them to disturb the wetland where the multi-use path or road would go, because you want that to be a solid base.
Yep.
For maintenance.
Yeah, we have to slurry this pipe, and the town could probably give up that easement, because there's no requirement,
Yeah.
Once
Would be
we
no use.
slurry the old pipe, the town can give the easement back.
Yeah, you could do whatever you need to do for stormwater or
Like
whatever.
Laura said, from the conservation, the CAC would like to make this a hard path instead of a raised path. So like Laura said, we're going to try to approach the Army Corps and take this wetlands and expand this wetlands over here so we can make this a hard path. And it'll have the sewer line. You can see we added a manhole here and a manhole here for a straight shot. So,
It's actually better for the sewer line to not be in the wetlands as well.
yeah, definitely for infiltration. So we want to mitigate this wetlands, make this a hard path, and have this as the new town easement for the new line.
So, I mean, I do think, and I'm just using the River's Ledge experience on this. I think there will have to be some on-site mitigation and Army Corps of Engineer involvement. I think to get this to look the best possible way, some amount of wetlands are going to get disturbed, and so I think we'll just need to bite the bullet and do that, right?
I think so.
So look, I'll tell you, my only concern with this whole plan, and actually I like the one on the back page that connects Windsor, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Talk to them.
My only concern is just the number of cuts onto River Road. That's it. And especially the horseshoe, which it's very two, proximate cuts, right? They're fairly close to each other. And it's just that the road's curving right there. There's a lot of stuff going on the other side of the street. I mean, think about it. You had mentioned last time, Joel, that you have to go try to get that speed limit reduced, right? I mean, so you're acknowledging it too, right? And so the question becomes, is there a cut reduction plan that works here?
Well, I just wanted to mention this history first, though, is.
Could you use the microphone? Yeah.
But actually, don't take that one, or,
I'll talk here.
You can talk.
I'll talk
You
here.
can follow.
What's the name of the loop over near Mario's, Laura?
Parkville.
Parkville, yeah.
Okay, so Parkville was granted almost like a spot zoning. I think that's an R2. And it's a loop just like this.
Yeah.
And the north side of the loop is right on the bend. I mean, no sight lines, it's on the bend. I drove past it on the way here. And that's the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. And the southern loop towards Mario's doesn't have nearly as much straightaway as we have here, all right? But, in conference with engineering and Laura and Josh, we talked about this can be easily remedied without a speed limit decrease by making the loop one way, okay? And before that step, making it one way from the north to the south, okay? So you don't have any turns left or right onto River Road. But Josh also talked about, we could, if it was two ways on the northern loop, just eliminate the left-hand turn, crossing oncoming traffic. And you could have still a right-hand turn, into, oncoming traffic. But to make it completely safe, just a one-way loop. And also, it is pretty close. I mean, we almost do have the sightline distance at 45 miles an hour. I haven't gone to the county to talk about a decrease, but
Is it 40 miles right there, 4 miles an hour?
no, it's 45.
It's 45?
I mean, I would,
Break somewhere right in there.
I wanted to propose to the county, even to the town board, maybe an open mic session that, given all the safety concerns with all the improvements that are going to be installed in Blatnick Park, we have a splash pad, and that splash pad is very well attended. When I'm working across the street, I mean, there's loads of kids and tons of cars and everything. So God forbid if a kid wanders off across the street, you know what I mean? So, I mean, we are doing great safety improvements with the bike path rerouting, all right, and the new crosswalk. And I think Laura's mentioned a flashing light too. So I think that's in our package eventually too, is that we'll put a flashing light in, new crosswalk. And, if we convince the county to reduce it to 40 miles an hour, at least past our southern loop, we're just being good citizens. But I think we can make this work at 45 with a one-way loop.
Are there any other one-way loops in town that you can think of in any other development? I like the idea, but are there any other?
I don't think so.
I mean, the boulevards are
Oh,
one
yeah.
directional,
One direction.
and I mean, people sometimes struggle with it. I'm not a fan of making it
Yeah.
one way in and out. I think, I mean, if you get it reduced, you're near a park. I think that's just would be great if higher minds could come to a consensus on that.
We did talk about boulevarding the northern loop, okay, and that way we would eliminate the left-hand turn, kind of like Tall Oaks on Route 7,
Yeah, if you made a boulevard,
Yeah,
trees in the middle. I mean,
that's really easy.
it's an easy urban planning method that you could use to utilize that. It would be very difficult. The only thing you'd have to be careful of is where that median, how far it extends towards, because if it's cut back far enough and you can jump around it.
Oh, I wouldn't even do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, it's.
I mean, on Tall Oaks, it's probably 20 to 30 feet, I would say.
Right. But yeah, that's a simple traffic pattern implementation that you could do that would maybe help address that. It might be worthwhile looking at it just in a sketch.
We don't like the loop, the one-way loop, excuse me, but the median is excellent because that, we'd extend it far enough back that it would prohibit the left-hand turn in oncoming traffic. And then you just have a right-hand turn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the one-way loop either. And at the end of the day, the cuts aspect of what I'm saying has to do primarily with just the how many directionality of turns do you have at both of these. So I think that could be reasonable. I mean, on the other hand, look, the circle is going to go in at River and Rosendale. We are going to expect an uptick in volume of traffic on River Road. Maybe a reduction in speed limit is not such a bad thing. I think whatever people reduce, they're thinking about the drivers and the people going to work, whatever reduction in speed limit it'll get made up for the fact that they're not going to be sitting at the head of the road waiting for, the stop sign.
Bingo.
So, I mean, like I said, it's a really, I drive this road every day and it just comes upon you really quick. Like even when you get down to like Viewmont and Cephalonia and all, I mean, those streets look like they were just, they're literally like city, they're smaller than city blocks, right? For another street cut. So it just gets it to be very busy cutting onto River Road. So I think whatever can be done to mitigate directional traffic.
Do we care about the driveways for lot 1 and 2? Because the right of way is, if your survey is correct, is very large there. I mean, you could combine those into one driveway coming out onto River Road. The issue that we have found with sharing driveways is that it causes civil issues, and people call the building department all the time, and it's really not a building department issue. But shared driveways definitely do cause landowner issues going down the road, but you could potentially, because that right of way is so large, combine those two driveways.
Yeah, I'm not a proponent of that personally, because I think it
It
affects.
doesn't work very well.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It's a
Yeah.
nightmare.
And,
But you could.
Let's face, and I've been driving up and down this for 39 years, this road myself, I'll be honest with you, because that's how long I've worked at Knowles and R&D Center, right? And, it's really only certain times of day that are really a problem,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
try to pull out a Whitmire from, 4:30 to 5:30, it's tough, but any other time during the day, except for, in the morning when everybody's going to work, it's no problem, either way, really. But at certain hours of the day. Peak hours, actually, So this would work, and we could, when we get to the details, assuming that the town board approves the average density development, we can, you're going to have to, you're engineering about sightline distances and whether they're adequate or not, and whether, you talk to the county, whether they agree to drop it all to 40 miles an hour, those kind of things will be kind of a work in progress, right?
Yeah. And you definitely want to have that conversation with the county now too, even just about the curb cut,
I mean, the argument for what we talked about before about slowing down, plus the argument of the park being right across the street. It's
Yeah, that's a good.
when I
argument.
put my driving along the road hat on, it's not a great thing, but at the end of the day, it's a better thing, I think,
Right.
for.
Okay, so this can work, and sounds like we agree with the number, and it's just a matter of grouping the single families kind of together, so hopefully it would increase common sense and marketability, because, I think that's kind of where we stand. Anything else on this one before we move on at all?
I really like the idea of the median. I think you should explore
Yeah.
it. And for a couple of reasons. One,
Yeah.
it becomes its own little lineal park. You can name it a boulevard too. I think for the amount of money you'd put in there, the curb appeal that it would help
Mhm.
for selling some of those homes would benefit you twofold. One is that it would enhance that development, and two, it may help with some of the traffic mitigation, where if you do have to pull in onto a boulevard, you got to take that right-hand turn, and it's tough to take that left-hand turn.
Oh, we're going to add the median, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
On both the north and the south, or just the
Just the north.
Just north.
I mean, the place makes, you could sign it. I mean, right, there could be something
Because
like on Crest.
The south, remember, we're going to put a flashing light there.
For the.
You have the sight line on the south, and we're going to put a flashing light in,
South end with the flashing light, I think that'll
Yeah.
get everybody's attention.
Where would the flashing light be?
right at that crosswalk.
At the crosswalk to the south, right?
The crosswalk and the road cutter, same point.
What's on Rosendale Road?
Yeah.
Is there one
Like
on
a small
Rockefeller?
beacon.
Yeah, the beacons.
Yeah,
Like, the bike path here gets rerouted.
There's one on
that
Aqueduct.
was
Straight
the road
across,
we
and then
we
they'll be routed along the road here.
the new path.
We're gonna put a flashing light right here.
Is there like a light over there?
On the, that would be the west side of
Yes.
the east side.
Laura,
Oh, sorry.
with the flashing light for the crosswalk, what was your idea? Would it be right at the crosswalk or right at the road cut or?
Yeah, sorry, Mo and I were just talking about where they are. There's one on Flower Hill and there's one on Aqueduct Park.
Yeah.
And it would probably mirroring more the Aqueduct Park one because that one is a sensing light. And yeah, you put it right essentially at the crosswalk, but there's caution signs as you're coming up to it as well, a certain distance back in either.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have it be a push button as well. But yeah, the actual rapid flashing beacon is at the crosswalk, but there's signs that are warning of it.
Is it continuous or is it push button activated?
Well, you can do it anyway. You can do push button, you can do continuous, which I do not recommend. We're still
Yeah.
trying to fix Flower Hill.
Yeah.
And then you can have it sensing. So the one on Aqueduct Road, it senses you. And you don't need to push button it. It just senses that you're there, which works
I think
great.
that is the best solution.
And it has a solar panel, so it's a self-contained unit. It's been
It's both directions,
engineered.
right?
It's not that bad, Joe.
No, it really isn't that bad.
Oh, no, I'm saying, like technology.
Yeah, it's like the one on Aqueduct. It's
Yeah.
also, if you
I'll
go
go
further
with that.
down the bike path out west where there's the ghost bike
Yes,
that needed one.
they needed
When it
one.
crosses
That's
5S.
5S. Yeah. So, and the advantage to that one is that it's a county road and the county's used to those.
That doesn't sense the cars, it senses the
People.
pedestrians.
People,
Okay,
pedestrians.
that's a great idea. We'll do that.
But
I mean,
I'm
like-
sorry, is it on the east side or the west side of the curb? of the.
I think she
of the
said
road?
both directions.
Both directions,
It's, but
both
yeah,
sides?
yeah, it
Okay.
flashes on both sides. And I actually use the Aqueduct Road one fairly often because I live right there. And
Yeah.
fairly often the
Necessary.
cars stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't have to, but they fairly
Fairly
often do. Mhm.
Okay, anything else on this one before we flip over the page?
Flip it over to the.
Yeah, I have mentioned this, I think at the last meeting, and I don't know if this is an oversight, but so you have the proposed 10-foot bike path being moved to the crosswalk, which is great for safety purposes, and you have the proposed, the raised walkway into the proposed 10-foot wide multi-use path. I don't think it makes sense to mix a sidewalk in there, so you're showing like a smaller sidewalk. And you guys can jump in here, but I think the issue is bikes don't always know if they can be on the sidewalk, and I think that you probably want a dedicated multi-use path all the way through. So I would think that you would want to actually not have that be a sidewalk and have that be a multi-use path there.
All right.
Yeah.
So that just means that we'll reach out to the Army Corps then.
I'm actually talking about where it follows
In front of the.
in front of the houses. Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm a proponent of sidewalks. And I think even in this development, with the proximity of it being across the street, unless there was a way to have a multi-use path, I'm always a proponent of sidewalks. So
I hear you, except I just think that as it being it's going to be a very highly traveled multi-use path, and it's multi-use path everywhere else.
Laura, you're talking about exactly where? Just.
Yeah, where he's got his pen, like in front of the houses on the
Or you don't
road.
like the sidewalk, you're saying?
Yeah, I would make that a multi-use path.
So instead of 5 foot wide, 10 foot wide?
Yeah.
Oh, just on the west side of the loop.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
The bike
Okay.
path.
Oh, I got you. Okay, okay. Yes.
All right, so we'll convert that to a multi-use path.
Okay. Well, maybe we should talk about the other.
Yeah,
part.
that's just my recommendation. It's
Yeah.
up to you guys.
Oh, I understand now. I didn't realize that was a sidewalk.
Yeah.
First
Okay,
are better
yeah.
because the multi-use
Here.
path is flat
Yeah.
top.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because then some of the users are gonna get off and get onto the road.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
would still be on the sidewalk, so I would just have it be like the same size multi-use path the entire way, so that it's all consistent and
In the
everybody stays on it.
interior of the project.
In the
Yeah.
interior.
Just connecting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wait, I'm sorry,
Versus a sidewalk.
what,
versus the sidewalk.
I'm kind of reverting to Dave's position. So, we have this kind of urban density approximating. Why would you advocate for a multi?
Well, because essentially, this is gonna be a huge conveyor of people. There's no question. And the sidewalk doesn't continue around this whole neighborhood. It's really just connecting Windsor with
The bike path.
the bike path. And if you connect all of
So
those
there's a
people that
subject
are
after
using
that.
the multi-use path, and then all of a sudden it splits into a sidewalk and a road, then you're putting kids on bicycles on the road.
Okay.
And the sidewalk, they might still go on the sidewalk.
And
but-
so one side would have the sidewalk or multi-use path, the other would not. So it'd be clear to the
Right.
person coming down to the path that that's the direction.
Yeah, that
to
you're
go.
just, so you're
To
just
get to the
staying
side,
on an
yeah.
asphalt surface
Yeah.
from literally like Town Hall all the way to Blatnick Park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to put a sidewalk inboard of that, or make sidewalks solely to all of those in there, you could do that.
Yeah,
People will use them.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea to make it
Yeah.
wider. We'll make it a block top to match the bike
Yes.
path and
Mhm.
multi-use path.
Yeah.
That's what we have out front here. all
That's
the way.
what,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's right.
And then there's not a question of whether or not kids can be biking on it or not, is the real sort of
Yeah.
point of that.
Well, and also the idea, you also want to direct them to where the
Yeah.
the
You don't want
crosswalk is
them
going
going
to
the
be,
other
as
one.
opposed to the
On the
other
road.
direction where there's not going to be a crosswalk.
Right.
Yeah.
Safety.
Let's talk about the next one. You guys ready?
So which one?
The second. next
Flip it
one.
over.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm ready.
So exactly what do you have there?
We have to.
Sure we do. You submitted it. So.
Well,
Thanks for.
Before we start,
showing us the other-
At our strong direction.
so before we start on that, so one of the reasons, Dave, one of the things we talked about was, connectivity, and I just want to point out on the comprehensive plan, I think I got the right page here, page,
32.
yeah, 32, is it? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, basically, neighborhood improvements, and one of the implementation tasks was, item number 3, complete the extension of Windsor Drive to River Road with a multi-use path and connect to the bike path. But it says complete the extension of Windsor Drive, in other words, complete the road. That's in the comprehensive plan that that we support it. And I think this town board also endorsed it, right? And your committee did. So that's why we asked for it to at
Right.
least
That's why I
evaluate it.
said, putting the reverse ledge hat on, I think whatever is gonna happen with wetlands, you might have the opportunity here to mitigate, and so. For me, this is the option I like the best, including everything we said on the previous one.
And this plan is exactly the same as the one we just looked at, with the
Right.
exception of the connections.
Right.
I mean, on a serious note, thank you for submitting.
Yeah. So what that, does is allows, vehicular traffic to get out to the park and out to River Road. I don't know, Dave, if we have any traffic counts, but we know that people are getting there, either they're going down Van Antwerp and through Windsor at the intersection out here, or they're going through Edison, right, Drive and around. Somehow they gotta, be getting there.
I
right?
mean, I understand the risk of connecting Knott Street and Balltown Road to this location on River. But for me, I mean, and here I'm relying on the comp plan too, right? I mean, I'm sure the comprehensive plan committee thought about that, right? I don't think it's something that we should be afraid of. We can try to.
Yeah, I mean, the stub road was there for the Windsor development. So it was something that's been thought about for many, many years.
Yeah.
And there's a stub road already there, right? So what do you think? What kind of hardship does this cause, this scenario?
I think back in 96, when Ed Riley was pushing it and Windsor wasn't fully developed, that 24-inch storm drain wasn't dumping there, and it created that wetland corridor. Okay, so Windsor is wider, from looking ahead to a straight shot through, I mean, if the wetlands weren't there, if it happened in 1995, I'd have said it would have been probably great for connectivity, but not too good for those neighborhoods. I don't know. I think Balltown has like 20-some thousand cars a day, and I'm not sure about Rivers. Got to be probably half that, And to connect the two, I would think, I'm not a traffic engineer, but if you look at that matrix, I would think you'd get like 5,000 cars a day on Windsor. I mean, somebody could look at it, but.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is because it, like I said, design is similar than the other proposal, right? Is that it's kind of a tortuous path too. It isn't like a straight shot. You got to come through this, through Windsor. So I think it would benefit probably people that live in that area to get out to the parks. I don't know if, somebody, if I'd be hanging a left to go through there to get out to Town Hall or something like that, to me, that wouldn't make much sense,
I almost think that the people that are going to use it don't care about the tortuous path, It's like if Mr. Khan is coming home from work and he wants to go to the ShopRite, I think he's going to take that, whether or not it's torturous or if it was
No, but
a
that's
straight
okay. I
highway.
pick it up at the circles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a straight shot there. It's how I come here. But I mean, guys, this is something for us to discuss.
Yeah,
Like I said,
exactly.
I'm
No, right.
glad we're looking at it and we have the drawing to see. For me, always that inadvertent connectivity of some large number of cars is always going to be an issue. But if there's some way we can quantify it, or, I mean, let's the discussion go. But the connectivity is something that is appealing to, not for cars, but definitely for the residents in that area of Windsor. For the residents in, notice, right, for the people in this development to go to ShopRite, they're going to go up Windsor instead of coming out on River Road. It kind of
Right.
makes the curve cuts on River Road, it alleviates that a little bit, right?
And if you got the same X amount of traffic and you have this, some portion of that is no longer going to go up and around to get out to River Roads.
Yeah.
They will utilize this, and it's going to be the people that live there,
Yeah, it's gonna be a service
So there may be a benefit to the people that live there and to be able to get out and not go around to, I guess it would be Edison or out to Rosendale through all the other streets.
Or to the high
So,
school.
Yeah,
I mean, the schools.
The egress, yeah, but an increased traffic would be a disadvantage to those residents.
Sure, yeah.
And the question, and it's a big question, I still think it's mostly the interior. I don't know if you'd have an increase of long distance or regional users taking that path. But I do think that the interior neighborhoods of this immediate area might take that path.
Right, but to some extent, that is providing a service. I mean,
Yeah.
it's providing a service.
But those cars that are now maybe inconveniencing these people are reducing other areas of concern that we currently have, right? So it's the same amount of cars, just that there's another option for them. You know?
I mean, look, I'll say it was way before my time. I'm not sure. In terms of road geometry and connectivity, Windsor and that whole area there makes a lot of sense. But the fact that it's got some of your biggest homes and your most pricey pieces of property in that area, it just never made sense to me at all. Because at the end of the day, especially with the high school being there, with the town hall being there, the library being there, there was only one way that was going to go. So I'm not sure who made all those. Like I said, from a neighborhood connectivity perspective, it's perfect. But it's just the type of neighborhood that ended up being there, and I don't think we can bring those animals back into the barn. I think it's gone.
Now, if you look at, it looks like there's lands of the town of Niskayuna. There's not a home there on the one lot. So it's just the, I guess it'd be the home at the corner of, I'm not sure what that road is. It's not,
Brittany.
That's Brittany.
it's Brittany?
Yeah,
But from a neighborhood connectivity comp plan perspective, this is like a holy grail.
This is
Yep.
Right?
Briar.
Oh, Briar.
Briar?
Yeah, it's Briar. Yep.
Oh, Briar.
This is Pheasant Ridge.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So maybe you can help me out and tell me, what it would take to do that from a wetland standpoint. Is that mitigation, on-site mitigation? Is it relocating that?
It would be the same mitigation that we're proposing to make the raised path a hard path.
Hmm.
We got plenty of land over there to the north to expand that wetlands,
Yeah.
And when I did Oakmont, I did the interpretive walkway across from the library, and the Army Corps loved that. So maybe we could say we could rebuild it for them.
Yeah, how would it change where you put the single-family homes if that road were to come through? Would you want to keep the single-family homes, say lots, 11, 10, 8, 9, so they're kind of pushed in the back, bordering the Windsor home?
I don't think any one of the homes wants to be next to that road, because of the traffic, but.
Well, I mean, if the single families along, not lots 1 or 2, I think those have to be the way they are, right? But if you took the other lots, I don't know, pick
6,
one.
7, or.
Yeah, 8, 19,
Yep.
Instead of being on River, which may not be desirable for a single family home, if they were in the back on this extension to Windsor, then it would be all the R1 would be kind of,
I could
single
get,
families would be together.
I could get the eastern facing with 2 single families on either side of that road, at the top of the loop. I could get eastern facing, so
Yeah.
that would meet my eastern facing customers criteria. So yeah, that's doable.
You see what I'm trying to say there? Just so,
Yeah.
so maybe there's an advantage if you have the road extended through and you move the single families, closer to
single
Windsor.
families are-
So they're, so it may make, and I'm not you're the real estate guy, right? It might make those lots, it may make the single family more appealing.
Yeah.
But instead of,
Kevin, I'm not tracking you. What
So-
are you proposing, sir?
Single families.
so if this were to be the choice where the road Windsor would be extended, you'd relocate the single families back here instead of along the road. So the townhouses would be along River and more of the single families would be, contiguous to the existing single families
So
back
there's
there.
some enhancing the connectivity.
Yeah, and it might be,
Okay.
might be from a sales
unity of
standpoint,
design.
if it was me, I'd say, well, lots, you can't, 1 and 2, it is what it is, right? But if I had to choose between, say, lot number 19 versus something, back there, it would seem like it'd be quieter because of the 40, 45 mile an hour traffic,
Yeah, but, just one comment on that. I'm a little bit okay with the way it is, where the single families are right now, because at the end of the day, it's only really single family homes that are facing River Road all along, right?
Mm.
This would be the first set of,
Yeah.
the first set of
Yeah.
duplexes that would be.
But remember, he's got to do 10 of them, so you could still have along River Road, and then instead of having, what we just talked about was,
Yeah.
8 or 7, 8, some of those could be pushed over.
Yeah, but there's something, because right now with the suggestions Laura made, it's actually symmetrical 3 and 3
Yeah.
on the sides of the
Yeah.
horseshoe. Right?
Yeah, but does that-
You're facing River Road,
that
that's the
important?
neighborhood you come into, and then the neighborhood kind of get, because Windsor down after Van Antwerp, right, does pop up duplexes, right? So Windsor, not. But
Yeah, and I'm just throwing that out there. To me, you know, it's
Yeah, but all
whatever
these are-
works, I'm okay
You
with.
know, my thoughts on the connectivity is that I think it will be more of a regional road than a neighborhood road. I mean, when I took my kids to high school, you know, we came down Fox Hill and over and up Windsor to the school. People come in from Van Antwerp, people come in from, you know, maybe Balltown also. But I mean, the people going to ShopRite or say the high school or the town here to the town hall, they're not coming down River Road. I mean, you know, there's some road cuts on, yeah, River Road, but there's not a lot of residential density on River Road. Okay, most of the density is west of there. All right, so I think the people that are going to be using this are, you know, regional people that work at Capel or not Niskayuna residents. You know,
Yeah, but the Capel guys are gonna have to make a left turn, so they're not gonna do that.
Capel guys will have to make a left.
Yeah, they're gonna try to take.
Or do you-
the path.
But it flips, you're gonna have, are you gonna basically get offload traffic from Balltown Road? I mean, are people basically, instead of trying to like navigate Balltown Road at
Yeah.
certain difficult
Yeah,
times?
you're gonna get
you're
people
gonna get
offloading
people-
from Balltown and not,
Yeah.
who are heading out to Troy or to
Right,
Latham.
right, and they're gonna come down through.
They're gonna come through here
Yeah.
and they're gonna go right and head to the.
Yeah, you are
circle.
going to get
Yeah.
that.
Well, or, they're gonna come out on Rosendale, or pardon me, on River Road and then head out, and then get out onto Rosendale.
Yeah, and
Road from
those
there.
people would typically go up to Union, up Route 7 then,
Right.
or down Rosendale through the new circle.
Yep.
But yeah, I could see a lot of that traffic.
I mean, what would we want to look at here? And I'm looking to the folks who work on the comprehensive plan, because that reality of making it connected does bring some increase in traffic, has to bring. But it seems like
Well,
that ways, because there are many other benefits, right, that we described. So it's.
No, but I'm saying that actually that might be a benefit of actually connecting it, is actually you could potentially offload
You
some
can
of the
offload
traffic
some
on
of- sure,
Balltown
yeah.
Road, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think.
or through Edison, you know, because people come through there now, right? I see people
Yeah.
pulling out there all the time. So it's just a matter, you got so many cars, you're just gonna, you know, they're just gonna have a different option. So some percentage is gonna choose that option, right? Depending on where they're going. I guess that would be the traffic analysis if we needed one. But I guess what we really got to decide on is, you know, we got a comprehensive plan, and here we finally got a proposal for this piece of property, and it's in the comprehensive, and do we follow the plan and say we got to, you know, or do we say, hey, comprehensive plan is not, you know, is not correct now because of whatever reason? We got to, this is the hardest, it's a hard decision.
Yeah.
You know, Dave, you were the.
So, yeah, I think that the majority of the traffic is going to stay on River Road when River Road is flowing. And when it isn't, then people are going to look for a backup. And I think you're going to get a lot more mileage out of this being a neighborhood used road than people cutting through. Yeah, you're going to get a handful of people who are going to cut through. They're going to discover it, that maybe if they live on that side of town, it's an easier way. But with the amount of traffic that may dissipate, if there is some additional volume that does come up there, and I think you're going to see things vastly change when the circle comes in, because I use that road almost daily. And, you know, when you're on Rosendale, that's great. When you're on River coming the other way, if you've dropped anyone off at the high school, you know,
Yeah.
it's tough to take a left-hand turn.
I mean, I think the benefit of this is going to outweigh the downside.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, let's explore that further. So Linwood is a good example of a street that does connect River.
Yeah.
One of the things I think were done, I don't know when it was done, but there's a lot more stop signs on that path to regulate the traffic. So are we open to, if it were to be too congested, to add a stop sign? Or are we even now considering a stop sign on Windsor? Maybe at that intersection at Briar or somewhere in that area? That may be something we should bring into the conversation, because Linwood has several. It's why I don't take Linwood.
That's right.
Otherwise, I would take Linwood, but I do. However, I agree with what David's saying. Generally, I won't.
Right.
I'll still take the main road.
I think the only reason I've ever taken Linwood is just because it's 5 o'clock or 5:30
Mhm.
and Rosendale and
Yeah.
I can actually
It's an alternative.
I can see the brake lights from Linwood. Rosendale and right? No, but it's But yeah, I think your
But
point's
it's a
well
lot
taken.
of, but it's
We
a
ought to
lot of
consider
turns
those
to get
tools.
You mean from going from like from the center of town, like from the high school? I mean, you still have to go through like a lot of different turns to get out to Linwood. And it's the same thing now. I mean, it's the same thing now with like if you want to get out to Rosendale, you got to go down Windsor to Briar to Chestnut, loop around out to Riverdale. It's like four or five different turns. It's connected, but it's not. It's very choppy.
I mean, you're familiar with it from your other place, right? People will go from Rosendale down Mohegan, over in Fox Hollow or the one before it.
That's right. 207.
Get onto Lynn, right?
Yep.
I think it's gonna probably be at that level, but it may be better once that circle gets in there. Because a lot of people do that because the circle's not there.
Is the road doable?
Yeah.
Along this path of question, if there was a continuation of the multi-use path, if that path is on
the other side of the road, yeah.
right, the other side of the road, so will we consider crossing or making a crossing at a stop line on Windsor Drive that's closer to the neighborhood that exists today? Or would we do it at the U meets the Windsor? How would that logistically play out?
Where the bike path would end?
No, what side of the road would the bike
Yeah,
path continue to be on?
So the multi-use path on Windsor is on this side, it's on the northern side of
It's on the northern side of Windsor.
So there would have to be a street crossing. But I mean, you're thinking you would continue the multi-use path.
Yeah.
I know you don't like it, Joe, but I think it's gonna be good in the long run.
Yeah, but
All right. So
So your friends who own the big mansions, now they can get the River Road really easy.
But if you had a stop sign at the corner of Windsor and Briar, and the bike path changed from the north to the south, then that would solve that problem. And the stop sign would maybe be a deterrent for people to pass through also. Because it may not be any faster, those taking the main road.
Well, and there's some details that we can work through that, bottom line is though, in order to go forward with this, we have to pick one because we're going to need to have a public hearing, right?
Well, see, I was just gonna pass that before Paul is like, say we have to go before the town board, to ultimately get the special use. So would the town board pass this?
Well, the town board support the comp plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's okay, but
I
they
guess-
support the comp plan, but that's not my question. My
Yeah.
question is, would they pass this?
Well, it can't,
It's hypothetical, we don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me ask a question, maybe, I know what I'm gonna say here might help you more than I want to, but does it make sense to go to the town board with both plans?
That's what I wanted to ask Paul. Why can't we do that?
I mean, I think you can.
You can.
Yeah, the only concern I have is, leaving our job up to the town board. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's
And so that's where I was
yeah,
coming
no,
from.
I,
right?
I actually agree with the commission, with the chairman.
Yeah.
We have a job, let the town board make the decision.
Yeah, and if-
And so-
Yeah, but before I got to that point though, is if the planning board chose the connection, okay, with the average density proposal, I would go back to square one with the 28 lots, R1 and not connect.
Well, I mean, and maybe Mr. Briggs could, I think the town board would have the power to still grant it, but with the condition saying the connection isn't done, or,
Yeah.
right, I would
But
think.
what's the implication of what you just said, Joel? If you would go back and do
I
it?
would, our idea is we want a walkability, a connection to the town center, connection to the bike path. We don't want the car traffic. We don't want the through traffic, all right? And then there's also the consideration of the 15-inch, the cost of the 15-inch sewer line and the cost of this road too, all right? It's very expensive, all right? So from my standpoint, we were going with the average density because it has the green space to placate the neighbors. It has the multi-use path to connect. We're rerouting the bike path. We have that multi-use sidewalk now or multi-use path, right? And it'll be a great neighborhood, all right? With the attached townhouses, there's a need for that in the town. all right?
Absolutely.
And that is our concept, the sidewalks, the walkability, the connectivity, the adjacent park, all right? We don't want the traffic through this neighborhood. I mean, I'm a Niskayuna resident, and I would I would like to see a straight shot through a real wide road. Yeah, I'd love that. Okay, but
That's not Niskuna.
that's
We don't
exactly
do
my
that. We
point.
have like nice turns and traffic calming.
Yeah,
passage.
I mean, that's,
For the guy who
I know what
doesn't
the-
St. David's Lane.
I don't want to be like an arrogant Niskuna resident, but, do we really need a perfect geometrical grid work of roads, easing everything, or,
Yeah.
I mean, that's nice if you're a traffic engineer, but I'm a,
Well, it's a connectivity thing,
No,
right?
but you had made a comment, you would want to change your average density?
we would
What would you want to change?
we would go back to square one.
Single family.
We wouldn't go with the average density. That first plan that we showed, we would just go back to this. We'd go back to this. We'd go back to that.
Yeah,
But for the record, Joel, I mean, the planning board would have the right to have the same discussion
exactly.
for an R1 development
yeah.
for the
I mean,
connection.
we'd still,
Yeah,
if we'd say, okay, make the connection, it's still
So you
gonna be the
really-
same.
You really want to do 24, 23 single family?
Yeah.
But
Although what you got here looks.
Paul's wide awake now, so
So let me
if the
ask-
planning board came in and said, I had to make that connection, do I have to make it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
comprehensive plan.
Even with the R1?
Yes.
We have more power to
Yeah.
make you put it in the
Yeah, and
R1.
it wouldn't have to go to the town board if it was just, or when it wasn't an average density development, we'd have the authority to say, file a comp plan, put the
Connect it.
road in. So, from an economic, and I don't know, that's up to you, whether
Yep.
it's more economical, to have the average density development with the road in versus the R1, file. I think it'd be easier to develop with the average density development because there's a lot of tough land there and you've got to have a smaller lot size, which you're allowed. So
The demands-
you would think that would help you,
That,
right?
that looks pretty good.
Does it?
That's,
Yeah.
those lots are pretty nice right there. And there's 20 pretty nice lots and
In all honesty, if the road is coming down the back and you have a way of putting it in there, I'm fine with either one.
Yeah.
Either one.
This one or that one.
I see, so long as Windsor's connected. right?
Yeah, if you were to put the road into there, how would that work out for you? Would that be, from it's not our job to look at the economics,
I mean, we sacrifice
unfortunately,
those
right?
wetland properties for the.
I mean,
county
so,
anyway, it'll
so
be-
you're saying the town could force me to connect if we don't want to? Would the town force us to put in a 15-inch sewer line too?
I mean, it's part of our code that when you're coming forth under a subdivision proposal, that you have to look at what the capacity is of our sewer line. And if our sewer line is maxed out there, then you have to do things to mitigate in order to connect it. So, I mean, you'd have to do an engineer's report the same way. And I would say it's adding 24 houses as an average density development or 24 houses as a single family home, you're probably going to be required to do the same mitigation in order to be able to connect into that sewer
So
line.
we have to put in a 15-inch sewer line for 24 houses.
Yeah,
Does that
I
make
mean,
sense?
none of the easy properties are left. Like
Yeah.
our sewer
No,
lines
no,
are
no,
at
that's-
capacity.
my
Like
question
you're
is
on a
that-
curve. That's
I mean, the town's had this sewer line for a long time, okay? So I come in and add this small development, 24 lots, and I got to put in a major trunk line in the town then.
it's kind of like the last man to the table.
Well, another way to put it too, you've had pump stations, right, where somebody came in,
Yeah.
may not have been a
I mean,
15-inch main,
absolutely.
but they had to contribute to the pump
Oh,
station.
I
That's-
spent $250,000 on 7 lots on Campo Court. I
Yeah, you know
that example
Yeah.
for a pumping station.
Yeah.
I built the best pumping station in town.
So
So,
let me throw up one option and see what you think. Could we, I know we have to have a public hearing. Could we, the most, I guess, I don't want to say controversial, but the one that follows the comp plan gives everything we want and maybe what you want, the average density development is with the connection. Could we, hold the public hearing with the, showing the connection going through and let's hear what everybody has to say,
Sure. I'd love that.
I mean, that's one option, right?
I think we could do.
And then, you still got your work, you still got the backup plan, right? And
I'm okay. With
then we can hear what everybody has to say and.
Why don't we,
And you get time to think about it because you can
Yeah.
see that, again, other developers have had interest. I haven't been privy to any of those conversations, but I believe that the office has been telling them that there's a connection that needs to be made when they've come in looking at this property before you bought it. So it's nothing new,
One of the other things is that connection will connect that development with that neighborhood. If it's not connected, it's completely isolated,
Right.
its own little cul-de-sac. And, you know, and I was one of the authors along here with Mr. Oster on that comp plan, and we wanted to avoid a lot of those missed opportunities of connecting things, especially to the town
Yeah,
center.
that's what's meant by connectivity. It's not
Correct.
just
Yeah.
vehicles.
Road, yeah.
It's, neighborhoods connecting, so your kids play together, hang out together. You don't have to get in the car now and drive all the way around and
Yeah.
to drop your kid off,
The benefits are going to outweigh the harm.
Yeah.
in the long run. I mean, when you look at the comparable things we talked about, Linwood, Mohegan, all of that, it's and like I said, that circle is going to alleviate quite a bit.
You've got so many good assets around this development. You got a fantastic park across the street. There's a
home
bike
run.
path that's
But-
there. It is so close to the town center.
Yep. Another park up the street,
Yeah.
it's a great location from
Capital.
from the services, with the water and the old building's supposed to come down here shortly, right? So,
Yeah, they're gonna make that across the road look really beautiful and probably consolidate that entrance so it'll be
It's the
easier
highway
to
and-
navigate.
the old
Water
water garage is going to come down, yeah.
Right, so we'll make the changes that we talked about earlier with the swapping the two single-family lots with the attached lots. We'll do a median on the north connection. We will show the crosswalk, flashing lights, and we'll convert that south side sidewalk to a multi-use path.
Hey, can you confirm is that a one-way street still at this point?
No, we just
No.
talked, just the median,
Okay.
just the median on the north connection.
And for the public hearing, you'll show the connected plan, right?
Well, I think what we said with the public hearing is we're going to do both plans, right?
Well, I think what we would have, we'd have the primary would be the connection, because that's what comp plan says.
Okay.
And we'd hear what people have to say. And, then, because we have to make a recommendation to town board, we wouldn't be making a recommendation that night. We would take all the information in, what we heard, maybe it was something that we didn't think of, But are we at the point, Dave and Laura, we got enough work done to have the public hearing, right?
Yeah.
Because the public hearing is not the final. This is-
We could make these changes in a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know you want to keep moving.
We could show it on both plans, okay? We'll show the walk and
Yeah.
we'll continue the walk down, and we will have to cross the
You
top
have
of the
to
loop.
cross the street.
We'll cross the top of the loop. And that would probably be best to have a stop sign there,
sign,
obviously,
yeah.
And again, we'll work through a lot of those details too, depending on where we end up with all this, but can we call for the public hearing for next meeting, even though it was just discussion tonight?
Yeah, I won't speak on Mr. McPartland's behalf, but I'm comfortable with that. The only other thing I would ask is, I know this isn't a heavily wooded lot, but that always comes up with every development.
Right.
If there is any mature tree growth or anything you're trying to preserve, if that could be demarcated somehow.
It's gone.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
figured.
they already
But if there was
cherry-picked it
anything
in
around
there,
the
They
around the
logged it.
perimeters.
They logged it.
Right, you know what though, right?
But on the upper end,
On the-
On the-
You indicated there was some buffering up.
yeah.
Like right here,
Yeah,
like right here, there's still some nice trees. Like
Okay.
right in here.
With the average density plan is that we come in and we'll mark a tree line, like a no cut.
Mhm.
And probably about halfway, really only 25, 30 feet behind the houses, okay? So we'll pink flag this whole area, all right? Right around the whole loop, all right? And then you flag at the buffer of the wetlands, all right?
Mhm.
And so they'll just clear cut where the houses are.
Leaving some tree growth.
No,
On the
a
edge.
lot of tree growth.
A lot of, yeah,
Like here, if you do an arc like this, okay, all this,
it's tree. Yeah.
we don't touch it.
Yeah.
The only thing we'll do over here, Laura, is
That's what I thought.
clean up what the loggers left behind.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take the stumps out and grind up, the debris that they left. But this is all these trees that they left behind and all this area, and really this area here too will all be untouched.
So I think that makes sense. It doesn't always make sense for the average density developments because you're really trying to look at, making sure that there's usable space. But in this case, you have a park right across the street. So I think that preserving the trees and the sort of like the last vestige of forest there makes the most sense and is a benefit of the average density development.
Yeah.
Just leave those forests.
Yep, that's a one of the
Yeah,
points, right?
because if they want a picnic table,
Yeah.
they can cross.
Yeah, we're not looking for
crosswalk.
any community parks because you got the park across the street
You're
here.
fine.
I think we just have the payment.
Forest.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's an advantage to both of us, you know?
That's what we did in Clifton Park. is
Yeah.
that we, like I said, we flag it all the way around, and then they just clear cut here. But when I say clear cut here, it's not that offensive because this is mainly field.
It's field,
Right.
field.
It's field, yeah, it's
This
already-
is field, and we can't cut here because that's the wetlands. But there really is no trees in the wetlands, so, you know, right where the road's going is, it almost lines up with that temporary construction road that we have
Mhm.
on the south side here, you know, so.
Is it short of it? Is it just short of that temporary construction road?
Looking at it,
It's close?
they're close, like, you know, here's the ball field, the diamond of the ball field, so that looks real close.
Okay. Good.
It's probably, it might be like right about here-ish, but it's close.
Right.
But all those trees that are, the only good trees that are left are on this hill.
Yeah, and a little bit down that side. They didn't go all the way, yeah, they didn't go all the way to that lot line.
So that clear cutting happened, those cuts were made when, by who? I
Previous.
mean, I
They
kind of know
were
what.
made by the original property owner. They were stop work ordered because they started it without a building permit, but our code doesn't really allow us, it says if you clear over 10,000 square feet of trees, you have to come get a building permit. It doesn't, as long as they meet all of the requirements of the building permit, I can't withhold it. You know what I mean?
They cut 40 mature oaks.
Yeah, they high graded it. So they just took all of the value trees out and just left anything else. I mean, it wasn't really like a forestry measure. They just extracted all the wealth of that forest and just left whatever wasn't of value.
Which I guess we'll talk about in discussion items and now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the connection to Windsor will be the primary plan that we're going forward with the 24 lots we talked about, and that'll be the one that'll be referenced for the public hearing. We'll listen to what everybody has to say, and then we'll, we won't be ready for a resolution or recommendation to town board. That'll give us some good feedback to hear what everybody has to say, maybe something be brought to our attention.
Yeah.
And keep it moving forward that way at least, right?
So will we be on for the public hearing March 9th? Okay, great.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the sooner we get the direction, the better off it is for you. Right?
Yep.
Okay. We'll get Tony cranking, we'll be ready tomorrow.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody for the applicant? Or you guys have any questions or?
Again, thanks for showing us the one with the connection.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Excellent. Okay. So, reports. Laurie, what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that the town has put out a RFP right now for upgrades to the docks at Aqueduct Park. So we have a lot going on in that area because Rivers Ledge is under construction, and we have a lot of grants that are going on down there. You guys have probably seen the bathroom that's, almost done. So we're expecting to basically make a path down to the docks that is more accessible, has less erosion, is better for anybody who wants to use it, do much stronger connections of the dock to the shore, make it much more publicly accessible. And that project's out to bid right now. And so hopefully we'll see some things happening early or late spring, early summer.
And this benefits all the schooner rowing.
It benefits all the rowing clubs, most definitely, but it also benefits the public.
Those are public docks, right?
They're probably
Yeah, you know what? They're all entirely owned by the rowing clubs right now. They don't object to the public going on them, but there isn't actually necessarily public right to go on them. They're just very kind. We will be owning a portion of the docks that are connecting to the shore because we're doing these really solid, metal pier connections, and they require special dock sections. So the town will end up owning those dock sections, which will essentially require that dock to therefore be public 100% of the time.
When does that happen, Laura? That part,
Yeah, probably this summer.
this summer?
And the bid is out right
There
now if you
used
guys
to
are
be
interested in
about
looking at it.
That'd be great.
no, I know.
Yeah, and it all ties into the bathrooms that are being done, the upgrades that Rivers Ledge is doing. So they're farther along with their park plans. They're working with the Canal Corps on them right now. So I mean, we're essentially looking at probably putting in about $500,000 to that park over the next, couple years.
Wow.
And that's one of the only other places that public has access to the Mohawk. So,
Right. And I think that's important.
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
I
we
mean,
can
a
go through-
kayak put in, I mean, I know they can get from, from the boathouse, but I mean, that, they have another kayak put in would be great.
So it's exciting. So we wanted to put that on there.
Is that what's going to go in with those kayak launch things where you sit down and
They don't have that proposed for there, but it's a rowing dock, so it's only like this high off the water, so it's very good for putting your kayaks in.
But like Mohawk Harbor, I mean, again, it's obviously
Has a
on a
kayak.
smaller
Yeah, they're
scale
nice.
now, but Mohawk Harbor kind of has a kayak rental area, like right, kind of right on the landing area.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no slips, just a parallel to the shoreline dock. You pull a boat, a motorboat up along it.
Right.
How many feet of additional dock?
It should be about the same. It's just going to be much stronger and much more accessible and have landscaping, like native, like right now there's a lot of invasive buckthorn and honeysuckle and
how deep
they're
is
gonna
it there?
fix it all.
Is it deep enough for a boat to get in there?
It's all non-motorized, so that dock is non-motorized. Well, except for the
motors out.
whatever you call those ones that follow along.
chase boats or
But
whatever,
when you're coming into that dock, it's supposed to be non-motorized.
But the new one will support motorized, right?
No.
Well, it definitely won't. Why not?
It's not that kind of dock.
It isn't now, I
Yeah.
agree, but I'm just wondering if it might be a stopping point for community members to let people on or make people.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And use the bathroom.
Use the bathroom in a safe capacity. Yeah,
I am not a dock expert, although I try to be.
but you're spot on. The one that's there is not friendly. to
Yeah, and
water.
that's the
But if it were more, if it was more stationary,
maybe.
which it sounds like you might be building.
Chris can
something.
volunteer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's being built that way, but maybe it can be upgraded later. I'm not sure.
I think it'll be used that way. To Chairman's point,
is
there
it
should
just
be
an RFP?
bathrooms there. There'll be community members that might just meet there and then go to the Rivers Ledge or maybe.
Yeah, just
go to
park
the
their car,
casino.
jump in the boat,
Is Rivers Ledge, I thought one of the things that Rivers Ledge is going to have is like a little small,
Not a
like
slip.
fishing.
No, but no, like a
We
deli
tried.
or like a little, little sandwichy type place.
We talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're required to have a certain percentage of commercial on their
Yeah.
face too. And even if they can't put that huge building in and get their wetland permit, they do have that sort of like backup plan that we made them do where they could put, like we talked about, a little rest
Just
stop,
something that's kind of like a little,
cafe. Or
yeah,
something.
whatever. Like people, what you're taking your boat in there, or your kayak there, or you're
Or your
taking your bike
bicycle.
pass that you could like make it sort of like a designated stopping.
Yeah.
Those things are helpful.
Yeah, so Chris and I were talking about this when we actually did the sidewalk. This is getting closer to what we talked about. I mean, is it just an RFP that's getting issued right now and whoever is going to respond, they're going to provide some details?
No, it's been fully engineered.
It's been fully engineered already?
Yeah. It's just for a contract now, for a contractor
Okay.
to install it.
I don't know. I mean, considering motorized access that connects motorized on the waterway to Rivers Casino, it's something to consider.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you can I don't know enough about docks. Like if we can just swap out a dock section or two at the end that's high enough that you could use if regular.
The
boats are
idea is
not.
it just needs to be stabilized with a couple posts that you can throw lines on so that it stays in place where now you've got a boat in motion and a dock in motion, not very safe. So if one could be stagnant, then that's the goal. And it doesn't have to be the whole dock, it just has to be a portion of it. But I can guarantee you,
take them
people
out
will
in the
use it that
winter
way,
still,
whether
too.
they're allowed to or not. And it'll become less safe.
It's like, what do we do in the Mohawk by jumping jacks?
There's fixed,
Yeah.
they float with the raising and the lowering of the river, but they don't move around. They stay fixed, they stay flat.
Do they stay in
Yes.
in the winter?
No, they pull them up in the
They
winter.
still pull them up
Yep.
and the poles stay inside
But there's
there?
slips, a little more
Yeah.
complicated. There's some slip opportunities where I think yours is just gonna be pull up, let people on, off, and then continue on.
I will definitely
Worth asking.
consider that for discussions and when
Who
we go
engineered?
into
Who did the engineering?
Barton and LaJudas.
I would imagine there's probably more details than we're probably not thinking about, like getting approval from, it's a navigable waterway, it's the canal system. there probably could be permits and approvals we wouldn't even know that need to be explored, but it's worth the discussion.
But the
Yeah, we can
canal
talk
system
about
has
it.
an agenda to increase usage.
No, I'm saying
Yeah,
it's kind of
that's
state
the whole
approval
point.
and federal, I mean, it's a navigable waterway. It's got all sorts of other approval issues that are.
Yeah,
probably
well,
down.
because for
No
Rivers
pun
Ledge, we
intended.
originally wanted to put a dock way down at the end, but there were sort of two issues with that. One, there's really no motorized access all the way down at the end, so you would have to like sort of carry your kayak or something. Like, it's not the
Shallow,
most
too.
useful place to have a dock, but it's super shallow. I mean, you have to dredge it.
I'm surprised.
What, what's that, you talking about Rivers Ledge?
Yeah,
Yeah.
remember how we were originally going to do
Yeah.
like a dock or a fishing pier or something at the end? I mean, fishing would be fine, but like an actual usable dock there's no way to get your vehicle, and it's like,
Which is probably an argument that this public dock would be maybe used more often.
well, there's no way to get a vehicle to this public dock either. But I mean, it's much closer. You're not going to be, you can carry your kayak down this hill. You can't carry your kayak all the way down the length.
Yeah, I
of
mean, it's not going to be a
Rivers Ledge.
launching point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just going to be
Yeah.
stopping.
Using the bathroom, maybe
Stop,
using the
yeah.
restaurant.
Right, you definitely couldn't like have a boat on a trailer and back it out.
No,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, launch,
That's Route 7. I mean, that's a lock 7.
Block 7, yeah.
Excuse me.
And I'm surprised B&L didn't suggest it when they were going through it.
Well,
That's
I
what
mean, it's
shocked me.
really,
Figure
I
engineers,
don't
right,
mean,
don't
but
like to get a box.
you have to be a little careful. It's very much a rowing dock. Like when you start adding the motorized traffic, like I think then you really start changing the character of what that place is.
Yeah,
So
but I think,
No.
but it's just the point, that you have an option, just like you want to meet somebody, pick somebody up, or just stop you, not to,
it's interesting, yeah.
All right, how about this tenant change, Pure Bar, where 402 is, what's that now?
Do you want to take that one, Craig? Oh, so I think it's in the Fusco building. No. No, sorry. It's in where it's, what was the place that was going to be right next to Spectrum that had the burgers?
Oh, okay.
Be good.
Be Good.
Yeah.
Yes. I think must have withdrawn. And so we have an application for Pure Bar to go there, and that's like a high-end exercising place.
So is it bar, BARRE?
Think so. Yeah.
Probably.
And they have their documents submitted, but they didn't submit them in time to be on this agenda. So I just want to let you guys know that there's a tenant change for that.
So they're going where to Be Good.
Yeah,
little guy.
Be Good.
That's right in the corner, right?
It's right on the corner. And like, when we were looking at Be Good, we were trying to think maybe we could like put some tables out or do something special with the entrance. This is kind of a completely different use from what Be Good is.
High-end exercise, huh?
Yeah.
Not sure what that
And
means,
so
but-
parking, everything's okay, is it a simple tenant change we need to look at
It's
at
a
one
simple,
meeting?
yeah, so the parking is fine, but it does have essentially the same issue that we had with Be Good in that really there's a ton of parking on the side of the building that nobody wants to use. Everybody wants to use the parking that's in front of the building, which is where everybody from Panera parks, and there's never a spot ever. And so like when we were looking at Be Good, we were trying to get them to do some curb cuts or some door that faces where people should be parking for them so that it doesn't interfere so much with the facing of the Balltown Road. So we could look at that with them, although I don't know if this will
Is
be
the
as.
EMS store? I'm sorry. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
the
figure out-
EMS were
yeah.
demised, right? So now half of it's Spectrum and
Right,
half of it's
right,
empty.
yeah.
Yep. All right, so we'll be on for discussion next time, or a resolution for?
I mean, I would have it tentatively for a resolution unless you guys had some major concerns. The door issue.
Yeah, the door was an issue with Be Good, right?
Because I know Be Good came multiple times because we were trying to get him to do a door.
If we think it's gonna, not go
A door on the
forward.
side.
A door on the
we-
side.
yeah.
Yeah, the side isn't that inviting. You guys remember the sidewalk's only like a little bit wide. Yeah, it's
Maybe we can stop over and take a look, I can stop over.
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
Look at it ahead of time or something.
drive by. Yeah.
No, I meant here to take a look at the
Mhm.
spittle.
Yeah, so that space is back, but different tenant.
So exactly what is high-end exercise?
I don't know. I mean, I just Googled it.
Nobody
It's like-
exercises, you just sit there.
Bar
Like a-
classes are just,
Huh?
it's like an aerobics class with, I think, ballet bars along the sides.
Okay.
So it's just more, so it would be like a gym with classes versus like exercise equipment. I mean, I'm assuming that's, if it's
It's
a
very
bar
like
class.
yeah, it looks very nice. Like the whole
So
But
they
it
don't
would
have
just be
equipment?
sessions. Yeah, they wouldn't be equipment generally. If it would be like free weights or like dumbbells
Okay.
would be the only equipment generally.
Okay.
I was thinking more like Chairman Walsh, like you sit there and
You sit
somebody
there.
exercises.
Say, high-end exercise. That was tough, but we got through it. I think I'll have a beer. Anything else, Laura?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so we'll get to commission business. Mr. Ross, do you have anything for us tonight?
Yeah, I'm not going to be at the next meeting. I have a work commitment at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DiFino?
Nope.
Enfield?
Nothing.
Mr. Khan?
Nothing.
Let's give you
I'd
10
just like to make one point. Given the last proposal we saw on the Windsor connection, the connectivity issue, I think that's a superior plan. I think the operative principle should be that public rights of way should be public. And I just want to make sure that we, at the public hearing, that we have proper interpretation of what's happening at the hearing, and that we look behind it, and that our job is to be planners, and the planning that we really endorse the comprehensive plan, which is to say that we should really interpret any blowback we may get, that it may be organized, it may be incited. Let's be careful and critical of who comes forward, and not just go for the loudest noise. That's my only.
No, that's
Great point.
And yes, we see it a lot, right? And that's,
Yeah. I don't want to fall prey to a
Yeah.
couple of homeowners who are aggrieved because a car's going to go by their house.
yeah, yeah, and that's one of the positive things about having the stub road when the development's, trying to look ahead. Because when you don't have the stub road, it's a real like, hey, there's no road there, but I mean, it's clear that there's a stub road there.
I just, one other point, that, Mr. Chairman, you raised a point a long time ago in a conversation we had about, there was some plan towards Birchwood about there's a stub road with a gate. And, that's certainly not the highest and best use of planning, our planning time. So we wouldn't want to replicate we wouldn't want to have a double that kind of problem.
But the only thing I will say is what you will get in response is the safety argument, and you will get the kids playing in the street,
road,
the kids biking, and again, I don't think that is to be minimized. I agree with the goals of the connectivity, but I think we should not fully discount the idea of sort of the balance of safety as well. So it might be overblown, but I just think people do get very protected.
No, I understand that people make those arguments. Environmental arguments have been used to discount lots of other credible proposals. So just eyes wide open. My request to my fellow board members is eyes wide open. That's all I have to say.
And I can comment on that Lori Drive in the sense that the neighborhood there, the stub road was so long, covered over, they really had no expectation that it was there, as opposed to Riley Way. I know. I mean, as opposed to the guys, what is it?
Schwaber.
Amador.
Yeah.
Schwaber,
yeah.
right? So it
It's a
was
lesson
there.
learned, yeah.
And for whatever it's worth, I know that they only actually found out about it like the day before it was going to be on the agenda. That's when they actually realized, oh, wait a minute, there's a development coming in, right? So
For Schwaber.
Schwaber, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But the original plans from.
but it was always there,
Yeah,
right?
and the original plans for the other connection were on the plan. It said future connection.
Yeah, it was
right
on the plan,
it.
but I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing. The stub road on Schwaber was visible. It was there. You can drive by.
Yeah,
It wasn't the same.
it does help.
It was in a cul-de-sac, right? It was.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a minor thing, right?
But it's good
I think that's
comment,
history.
and we'll keep an open mind, and that's why I think it's good that we go forward with the comp plan as the
Yeah, absolutely,
primary,
yeah.
and we'll see what comes out of it. And-
No, but I do think you do have, and again, it's literally certain times of the day when getting into Niskuna High School can get very, very backed up. And that traffic then spills up back onto Windsor, it spills back up the Windsor Drive. And theoretically, that could make that even longer. I'm not saying that's a reason why we don't push it forward, but I'm saying that is one thing that could potentially happen as a result of that.
Public rights of way are for the public. That's the axiom.
And
it's axiomatic. So that's all we can.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So
I
if I'm-
brought that up.
yeah.
I had nothing more to add. That's it.
I got,
Well prepared.
The other thing I've got is, I meant to say when we did the minutes, was I want to thank Ms. Fode for her hard work. We had the three first meetings we had were like 3.5 hours long, and she has to, work hard in those minutes. So I'm sure she'll hear this when she plays back. So thank her for her support on the minutes. We know it's not fun.
Yeah, I also wanted to clarify that there has been no discussion about us removing privilege of the floor from our meeting.
No.
That's
Oh, yeah,
not on
yeah,
the table.
So is there anybody who's discussed that? Any board?
I don't
Well,
think
at the
so.
town board level, where there's a discussion, but they didn't go forward with it.
Yeah, well, they were, but not eliminating it.
Oh, that's right.
Time limit on it.
Yeah, not putting it in the minutes, right? Yeah.
Well, not even that. We wanted to put a time limit on privilege of the floor. So
I mean,
we would have 10 minutes.
Yeah,
The time limit is not unreasonable, but capturing the minutes, I think needs to happen, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the record. That has not been a discussion. on the town level.
I have nothing further. A motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Khan, and seconded by Mr. Laflamme. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned, since there's none opposed. Thank you, everybody.
This, I'm doing myself now.
Fully looking at the.
I can actually go home and have dinner now.